Hi, Petersburg, Virginia. My name is Marcus Omar Squires. I'm a resident here of Petersburg, Virginia, and today I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about blight. Blight is like a cancer on a city. When a city allows for one piece of property to become blighted, that affirmation, that ability to let that property fall into such a deplorable state sets a precedent or a model for the rest of the community. So if you look behind me, we have one piece of modern blight that is privately owned. But have you ever thought, what about city-owned blight? Well, today we're going to talk about city-owned blight.
And welcome to Petersburg, Virginia.
The Ramada Inn here in Petersburg, Virginia. This building has been a cancer to our society. This building represents Petersburg right now. What Petersburg needs is a fresh new start, and we can achieve that by making private property owners held accountable. Once you allow a building to deteriorate to this point, there's no going back, and it sets a precedent and a model for the rest of our greater community.
The city of Petersburg is optimistic that Harrison will be successful in his endeavors. I am not. I do not have faith in Harrison. His plan for a hotel has died, and his new promise is to turn the building into market-rate apartments. Don't hold your breath, and don't expect the current council to act. After all, Harrison has made a large campaign contribution to a prominent councilman in our city. Now, let's take a look at city-owned blight, and thanks for watching my video.
Former Zeiss factory, our installation here in the city of Petersburg, Virginia. This factory was also known as, this building's also known as the Titmus Optical Building here in Petersburg, Virginia. As you can see, the door has been kicked in, it's definitely abandoned, and you know who owns this structure? This structure right here is owned by the City of Petersburg. And you know who owns the City of Petersburg? You do, the people. Behind me, the building has been unsecured for decades. If we could go through this garage door, you would see that it's all caving in right now. There are trees growing in the center of this building. This building is supposed to be an asset of the City of Petersburg. But as you can see behind me, this city is treating this asset as if it is trash.
What a waste of $1.5 million. It's disheartening to see just how far the city has allowed its asset to fall into disrepair. The city purchased the former Zeiss Titmus Optical Building for $1.5 million, and it appears the city has not put a single penny into its upkeep. The complex is just collapsing. Now, some city leaders will state that the city had no money. Some administrators will also state that the city had no money for a project like this. But I will say that the Commonwealth of Virginia does have the Industrial Revitalization Fund grant loan, which could have been used on this city-owned asset. But Harrison donated to a very powerful councilman, and that councilman was able to persuade the city administrators to use that Industrial Revitalization Fund grant loan for Harrison's project and not our project, because this installation currently belongs to we, the people of Petersburg. Look at how great this city has been taking care of its assets. If you wouldn't mind, in the comments below, please let me know what you would like to see in the former Titmus Optical or Zeiss installation here in the city of Petersburg. While walking around this installation, I had a wonderful interview with a resident who lives right here in Petersburg.
John, can you tell me what you feel the city should do with the Titmus Optical Building behind you?
I mean, if they're not going to use it for nothing useful, as far as education, recreation for the kids, or a game room or something, that it should be, basically, I don't want to be rude, but it should be knocked down. And the money that is taken up should be utilized for something that's beneficial for the rest of the citizens in the neighborhood, the city, schools, or whatever.
And John, Would you be amazed if I told you that the city of Petersburg spent over $1 million on this asset or facility?
I know I wouldn't be surprised because it was timid. It dealt with tobacco. And back in the happened I grew up here. I grew up in the same neighborhood, so it's been right there. But now it's just like really an asshole. It ain't what it's good for. Just sitting there.
Yeah. Are you aware that a back portion of the installation has collapsed recently?
No, sure ain't.
Yes, so the structure is currently collapsing. So not only is it a deterrence from the neighborhood, not only is the city letting the asset fall apart, but it is a public safety issue at this point.
Yeah.
Right behind me, you can see where the back portion of the structure has collapsed. Just a few months ago, I was running down the street here and I could smell natural gas. And do you know what happened when this building collapsed? It caused for a leak to occur in the gas line. Gas was pouring out into the air here. It was a huge safety issue. Imagine if something were to have sparked and ignited. This whole factory could have gone up in smoke. Luckily, I came by and I reported it to the proper authorities, and they have now removed the gas main to the building. But this building, which had recently collapsed, was still connected to live gas. This just happened a year ago under the current city administration and council. How can everybody in the city of Petersburg have so much faith in an administration and a council when they leave city assets in states like this? If this would have caught fire, this could have destroyed the neighboring community. This could have been a huge, huge impact on our city. Please, today, if you have time, reach out to your council member, reach out to any city officials or representatives that you know, and ask them to take a stance on Blight.
I'm currently standing outside of the AP Hill Community Center in Petersburg, Virginia. A beautiful community asset in dire need of capital investment. This facility could be used by the youth of our city.
It was once a wonderful facility for the youth of Petersburg to come and not only have a safe place to learn, but they also had the ability to have a safe place to play. This center hosted numerous activities for the students of Petersburg.
Have you ever asked yourself, why is your child's future the first thing to go with budget cuts? Just look at this wonderful facility that could be used for our youth here in the city of Petersburg. It's time for all of us to take action and demand that our council provide adequate services for our youth here in the city of Petersburg.
Behind me, we have the Peabody Academic and Learning Center, a wonderful facility located here in the city of Petersburg. But do you know what's going on with this facility? It may look like it's mothballed in from the street, but there's a lot more going on behind the scenes.
Behind me is the old Peabody Elementary School from 1915. This building may look secure and mothballed from the street, but just wait until you see the other side.
As you can see behind me, this city cares so much about its assets. This window was reported over a month ago to the city being decimated and just torn apart. But as you can see, our city cares so much about its people and assets, it has allowed for this building to remain open to the elements. But wait, it gets worse. Look what else they've done. As you can see behind me, that is not a natural skylight. The city has actually allowed for this building to fall into such a state of disrepair that it is literally collapsing. This is a valuable asset and a piece of African American history which is being let fall in on itself here in the city of Petersburg.
Officially named Peabody School in honor of the Massachusetts philanthropist George Peabody, Peabody School was the first public high school established for African Americans in the Commonwealth of Virginia. The current site is from 1915. The two twin buildings were constructed as an elementary school and a high school. The larger complex behind me was built in 1951. The most recent use of the building was in AMC's Walking Dead, a dystopian horror series filmed right here on the Peabody complex. Here's another vantage point of the dangerous situation on the Peabody complex. Just take a look at this once beautiful piece of African American history and heritage being allowed by this council and this city administration to fall in on itself. Please, Peterpolitans, reach out to your city officials and ask for change. As I walked around the Peabody campus, I thought about some possible uses that could bring great change to our community. What if the school was used as a regional or national vocational school? What if the school was used as a tech hub? What if the school was used as a satellite campus for other universities in the state? What if the school was used as an African American history and culture museum? What if this complex, known as Peabody, became the catalyst of change in our community here in the city of Petersburg? What if the city of Petersburg realized that this school could become an office space for businesses in the community? What if the school became a business incubation hub for the region? The school could be a mixture of many different ideas, and these are just some of them that I've thought of on the top of my head. We need visionary leaders in this city. It's said that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote down his "I Have a Dream" speech under a large tree. Perhaps others in this community will share a vision for Peabody. Perhaps others in this community will be inspired by this beautiful complex. We must look at our assets here in the city of Petersburg and hold our city officials accountable for these city-owned, blighted structures and facilities. Virginia has led the nation in many ways, particularly in education. The birthplace of the free public education system, which our country now enjoys, has its roots right here in Southside Virginia. It was here along the sleepy back roads of a few rural counties and cities that today's African Americans, Native Americans, and women developed the right to an education that equaled that of white males.
The city of Petersburg also has an issue with its historical infrastructure. A lot of this city-owned infrastructure is actually about to cave in. So it would be really wise if the city of Petersburg would start investing in its infrastructure super quickly, or else it will fall down.
This asset is another example of city-owned blight in Petersburg. The William R. McKenney Memorial Building was donated by his daughter Clara McKenney. The building was to be used to memorialize the memory of William R. McKenney for perpetuity. That means forever. It's not just supposed to be a library, but it's supposed to be used for the memorialization of William R. McKenney. The building was also the site of a very important civil rights sit-in and victory in the city of Petersburg. The library was the first institution to be desegregated in Petersburg. Reverend R.B. Williams left, Reverend Milton Reed Center, and Reverend Wyatt Tee Walker led the sit-in at the library in March of 1960. More than 140 people participated, including many students from the surrounding educational institutions. The city's lack of investment in almost all of our assets is clearly visible on almost all of our structures. Next time you're at the train station, look out. A piece of the Capitol may fall on you. Pocahontas Island is the first predominantly free black settlement in the state of Virginia, and by the mid-19th century was one of the largest in the entire North American continent. Pocahontas Island is a very, very rich location full of African American heritage just waiting to be saved. Behind me is the Jarratt House, the only surviving brick home on the historic Pocahontas Island and one of the area's oldest surviving structures. Since 2015, the city has stated that they would be restoring this structure, but as you can see, the current year is 2020 and the home is still falling apart. What's going on, Petersburg? This is an important historical asset and you are letting it slip away. One of Petersburg's largest and most visible pieces of blighted real estate is the Roper Lumber Yard. The 23-acre former Roper Brothers Lumber Company property occupies a large part of Pocahontas Island. The city's Economic Development Authority bought the Roper property in 2011 for $2.4 million. After the century-old building supply company closed its doors. The city and the Economic Development Authority have not spent a penny on upkeep. The City of Petersburg has not held its Economic Development Authority accountable for its gross negligence in the maintenance of the facility. The National Park Service estimates that the completed Southside Depot could bring an additional 40,000 people to Petersburg each year. Tourism is a fundamental driver of the local economy and job creation. The tourism industry hires employees with any kind of academic background, provides benefits, and provides opportunities for the employees to increase their wages. The Southside Depot could be a catalyst for our local economy. The city is stating that they need over $400,000 to complete the project, but at the same time, documentation shows that they are short over $180,000. These same documents state that only over $200,000 is available through VDOT grants and the Civil War Trust Fund. The Trust's grant is at $100,000 even. But what happened to the VDOT monies, which were reported by the Progress Index at over $650,000 and not just $177,000? The additional monies from the battlefield trusts were also not included in this official document from the City of Petersburg's Capital Improvement Manager. Will Petersburg ever see the Southside Depot reopen? What is going on with the monies? Did they go into the general fund? Did Petersburg fail to obtain the full state grant? Were the proper documents not submitted to the state for an extension on the grant? Why are we being kept in the dark? This is our asset. This is our Petersburg. We all should demand for an accountable city, one which is transparent. A city that maintains its assets, not just in Old Town, not just on Halifax, but all over. Petersburg City Hall, the home of our city's leaders. You'd expect this facility, which houses our leaders, to be upkept, as this would show a sense of pride and ownership in our city. But clearly, this is sadly not the case. The Petersburg's Courts complex has been stated to be a masterpiece of architecture. Yet, recently, it almost collapsed after decades of neglect. Luckily, a $1 million renovation took place, but a lot of the complex is still in disrepair. Here's a window that is floating somehow. The Courts complex also is having AC issues. Hopefully, this will be addressed by the current city administration soon. The School of Nursing is also another blighted city asset. The asset was donated to the City of Petersburg by the Cameron Foundation. Since then, the city has done little to nothing to preserve what's left of the complex. Currently, the historic building is sadly falling into neglect. The roof is leaking, parts of it are overgrown, and windows have sadly been busted out. Hopefully, the city will step in and see its asset saved. City-owned blight is rampant all over the city of Petersburg. Here, in Petersburg Legends Historic Park and Nature Sanctuary, you see the old Bathhouse falling into disrepair. Just recently, I filed a police report as someone has come to this historic bathhouse and ripped off the aluminum siding. Does the city have insurance to cover damage to its own buildings? Does the city care about its historical buildings and its historical assets? As I walked around the facility, I noticed a lot of issues with this one structure. But what was most surprising is that even all the way over here on this side of the lake, I found another piece of a historical lamppost. All over the city of Petersburg, extracurricular facilities have been left to the elements for decades. As you can see here at Petersburg Legends Historic Park and Nature Sanctuary, these outdoor assets which belong to our community have been neglected. The roofs are literally caving in before our eyes. If something is not done soon, our entire city could look like this. How can we stop the city from allowing its assets to fall into disrepair? We can ask that our Commonwealth Attorney bring charges against the City of Petersburg due to the fact that their city-owned assets are in violation of state law because they are insecure, out of repair, or otherwise a danger to the health and welfare of the community. If our Commonwealth's Attorney does not do this, then perhaps it is time that we reach out to another Commonwealth's Attorney here in the state of Virginia.